All right, we're back. Let's read another one from Exodus in chapter 7. And we'll also check out a little bit more about John Huss and a little bit more of Revealing God's Treasure with Ron Wyatt. And let's get into that right now. Starting with a reading about the early life of John Huss. John Huss was born in 1373 in the southern part of Bohemia, now Czechoslovakia, in the village of Husinek, hence his surname, Huss. The name Huss means goose. I wonder if it's called Hus, John Hus. I don't know. My apologies if I'm pronouncing names or anything else wrong. I'm not familiar with this, so. A word which, I'm going to say Hus, it sounds like goose. A word which Hus often used in referring to himself, goose. While he was imprisoned in Constance, he wrote his friends in Bohemia that he hoped the goose might be released from prison, and that, if you love the goose, try to secure the king's aid in delivering him from prison. He was born of poor peasant parents, all of which meant that his early life was one of hardship and cruel poverty under the crushing heel of lords and princes. The difficulties of such a life were, amongst a peasant population, broken only by wild and riotous orgies of drinking and fornication. While it is clear from Huss's letters that he was as riotous as his fellows, nevertheless, he earnestly insisted that he was never guilty of the immorality of his peers. From this the Lord saved him in preparation for greater work. Sounds like a little hypocrisy there on Mr. Huss's part. While his parents were not noted in any way for their piety, and apparently gave little thought to John's spiritual instruction, they did want him to go to school because they saw education as the only way for John and for them to escape their grinding poverty. In fact, they apparently considered an education for the priesthood to be the surest way to wealth, an irony that spoke volumes concerning the sad state of affairs in the Romish Church. That is true. Although John became a highly educated man, his peasant upbringing remained with him all his life, and his enemies repeatedly taunted him for his crude and rough origins. In 1385, at 13 years old, John began his formal education in elementary school at Praechatus. Finishing this part of his education in 1390, he went to the University of Prague, acquiring a BA degree in 1393 at the age of 20, an MA, a Master's in the Arts, in 1396, and a BD in 1404. Until he earned his MA, life was financially difficult, and he earned a bit of money by singing and doing manual work. Oh, he's a singer. But upon gaining his MA degree, he was qualified to teach, which he also did in the university. He was soon the most popular teacher in the university, partly because he broke old traditions by refusing to be the stern and unbending professor, preferring to laugh, joke, and socialize with his students. Okay, we'll read more about him next time. Mount Sinai, the layout. It's called Jabal al-Laws. I wonder if laws means laws. Place of the laws, which would make sense if God sat here and Moses got the 10 Commandments. I'd like to know that. Al-Laws. I don't know what that means, but laws sure looks like law. And al is almost of the, or to the, or from the kind of thing. So Jabal must mean place, or rock, or peak, or something. Peak of the laws. Mountain of the laws. Anyway, anybody can check this out. It's at arcdiscovery.com and has some great info. Let's check out the video here of Mr. Wyatt's testimony a little bit further.
So I was up in Jerusalem hobbling around feeling very, very rained on, waiting for my cheap airline ticket, the date that was on it to arrive so we could fly home. We didn't have money to change the ticket. And during this time, I was hobbling around the city a little bit. And one day I met this archaeologist who was in charge of the Jerusalem area there. should be talking to me. I don't have a clue. I didn't look very presentable. We were staying in a youth hostel, sleeping in our clothes. I'm sure I didn't smell very good. Maybe I was fortunate enough that he was upwind from me or something. But anyway, we got into a conversation, and I told him about Noah's Ark, and then I explained to him how the pyramids were built, and that seemed to get his attention. So he says, I've been doing some digging along this cliff face here. He says, how about coming along with me and have a look at it and see what you think?
See what you think. That's where it got really interesting. But we'll check more of that out next time. And you guys can all check it out on your own, of course, too. Might be worth it. Anyway, let's wrap it up and pick it up next time, where we'll read more from Exodus chapter 7. Well, let's read these verses now. And the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron, when Pharaoh shall say to you, shew ye signs to us, thou shalt say to Aaron, take the yard, and cast forth it before Pharaoh, and be it turned into a serpent. And so Moses and Aaron entered to Pharaoh, and tried unto Pharaoh, and didn't as the Lord commanded. And Aaron took the yard, and cast it forth before Pharaoh and his servants, which yard was turned into a serpent. For so hath Pharaoh clept wise men and witches, and they also didn't by enchantments of Egypt, and by some privy things in like manner. Privy things, like private maybe? Privileged knowledge, and all casten forth her yards, which were turned into dragons. One was serpents, this is dragons. But the yard of Aaron devoured the yards of them. And the heart of Pharaoh was made hard, and he heard not them, as the Lord commanded. He was mad. His guys got showed up by Moses and Aaron, so he didn't really care for Moses and Aaron at that point. Didn't really want to talk to them. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, shew you a miracle, show a miracle for you. Then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod, and cast it before Pharaoh, it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. Now this says wise men and sorcerers. The other one said witches. Same, close, but you know. They also did in like manner with their enchantments. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. Now in the other one it said dragons. This one says serpents twice. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. Okay, well, that ends that reading. Thanks for joining us. We'll do some more next time. Bye, everybody.